Part 23. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 233. Well, of course, the bedtime and the like are Luogu's imagination. In fact, it is not possible at all. The Queen's secret is very important and must not be discovered by others. So, there must be other reasons for finding this girl, right? When Luogu was pondering this in his mind, a lot of things were already stuffed into his hands. Tray, there are some things like petals inside. Looking at the things in the tray, Luogu began to have a bad feeling in his heart. Let's go, if you don't go, it will be miserable. The girl in front was talking, almost trotting forward. Luogu could only follow, hiding the knife while walking. This is a technical job, and it will be exposed if you are not careful. With great difficulty, they followed the girl in front to a huge door, and after passing the guard's inspection, they walked in. This is a magnificent room. Just looking at this room, Luogu began to wonder whether the Empress, as one of the 7 Marshals, used all the wealth she robbed for the decoration of the room. Standing in front of the room was a woman with a tall figure that many men could not match. At a rough glance, she was at least meters tall. Luogu remembered that he had read the Empress's encyclopedia, and the height was listed as meters. Just horrible. She is unbelievably beautiful, and her body proportions are almost perfect. After saluting honestly with the girl in front, the Empress turned her head, her expression not very good looking. He reached out and pointed in a direction. Without saying a word, he just snorted from his nose. Luogu suppressed a smile, especially when the woman snorted, her whole face looking at the ceiling above her head. Seeing people with their nostrils probably describes their pride. But the Empress is completely judging people with her breasts. Luogu couldn't help but maliciously speculate, could it be aiming for Tian Ganfang? Take the middle line and hit every shot without fail. Fortunately, the Empress didn't know what was going on in his heart, otherwise, Luogu would probably have a hard time getting out of this room. Together with another girl, after putting away the things, the two quickly left. It wasn't until she walked out of the door that the girl breathed a sigh of relief. You're lucky, Your Majesty is in a good mood today. Luogu nodded and did not speak. Okay, we have nothing to do next, let's go, find a place to rest for a while, there is not much work left, after the end, go back to sleep early. The girl patted Luogu on the shoulder, no matter the movement or posture, she was very manly. But Luogu is not interested in following her anymore, the Empress's room is already known, so of course I have to talk to her next. So when he turned a corner and found no one around, Luogu quietly hid his figure, turned around and returned to the Empress room. The door of the room has been firmly closed. Luogu jumped out of the window, and pondered, speaking of which, what are those things you brought just now for? Take a shower. After all, things like flower petals, women seem to like to use them to bathe. No, not only women, but now it seems that many men in TV dramas also use such things to bathe. Hey, and can tell whether I am male or female. Muttering in his mouth, his body fell to the ground, and as soon as he stood on his toes, he immediately looked around. The whole room was empty, no one was there. If it wasn't for the slight sound coming from behind the pink curtain, he would even suspect that there was no one in the room at all. Quietly and silently came to the outside of the curtain, although it is said to be a curtain, but it is not tightly stitched, there is a big gap to enter during the period. Luogu strolled in, and saw a huge wooden barrel, in which the Empress was enjoying, bathing. It really is like this. Luogu didn't know whether to say he was lucky or accidental, but it seemed pretty good to be able to see such a scene. Forget about other women, this is Hancock. Appreciate it at a close distance, it is definitely a high-quality treatment that ordinary pirate fans cannot enjoy. But he was not an ordinary person after all, and in the next second, Kuromaru had quietly pulled out the scabbard. The sound of the blade coming out of the scabbard obviously alerted the Empress, but before she could turn around, the blade was already hanging around her neck, followed by Luogu saying in her ear, "It's best not to move." The Empress' face instantly darkened. She was not an ordinary woman, and her reaction after being broken into was not frightened, but angry. And he wants to launch an attack in an instant, crushing the trespasser into slag. But it's a pity that the means she can use now are limited, only, domineering. The domineering arrogance burst out suddenly, but Luogu just thought it was a breeze blowing on his face. "It's quite cool," Rogo said with a smile. "Who are you? Overlord Sabeki has no way to deal with this guy, at least he is not an ordinary person. This is the unique king's posture. Haha, it's hard to tell you the name. After all, the ability to use it now is rather embarrassing. If it gets out, it may cause some unnecessary troubles. All in all, let's put it simply, I have no malice towards you." It's hard to believe. The Empress had a dark face, appeared behind her while she was taking a shower, and held a knife to her neck, yet she kept telling her that she meant no harm. Does it look like he has a face that is easy to deceive? Although it seems that saying so is really not convincing, Luogu said with a smile, however, as far as the imprint on your back is concerned, the fact that I am willing to keep my mouth shut for you can be regarded as representing my sincerity, right? The Empress's expression at this moment really made people feel a little distressed. "You, how do you know?" The softness of the voice is almost mesmerizing, wishing to immediately kneel on the ground to offer his loyalty and sincerity, willing to bow down under the pomegranate skirt, and obey the whip. Wrong. Luogu suddenly took a deep breath to stabilize his mind. This guy, it's not a special ability, it's a talent. Can a good-looking woman really have such a terrifying talent? Luogu looked at her eyes for a moment, no longer the most beautiful woman in the world, but like a snake and scorpion, with a look of fear beyond words. He let out a soft breath. "Don't say anything extra, let me tell you about my request. I want a boat, a small boat that can get out of the windless zone. It was an accident that I came here, I want it is my wish to be calm and powerful. Men are not allowed to set foot here, and I have never intended to offend. It is really helpless to make such a bad move today. I hope you can think about it carefully. I don't want to have any conflicts with you. Pirate's Bounty, don't run away." Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 234. The Empress almost bit her back molar. "Don't remember the conflict? Don't think of the conflict suddenly broke into your room, holding a knife across your neck, is this called not thinking of the conflict? So what do you do if you want to have a conflict? Am I already dead? And why is this man so calm? Facing such a beautiful woman, shouldn't he kneel down and sing conquest?" The thoughts in my heart turned, but the eyes became more and more charming. Can you let go of the concubine first? How can it be? Luogu had already seen through the root of this woman, how could he be deceived? In fact, if someone already has experience, most likely she really can't hold it. After all, a woman like the Empress, no matter her identity, appearance, or her posture at this moment, cannot be easily resisted. Fortunately, Luogu has no experience. Without the three flavors, it is just the beauty of the skin, not to that extent. He immediately smiled and said, "Don't make trouble, if I let you go, wouldn't you run away? I am not sure that I can easily win Tangtang's Kaiwuhei. Now that I am taking the initiative, it is better for you to bear it passively. Wait. If you become my guest soon, I will regret it. Well, it's time for people to arrive from outside. Just give me your orders and I will put your clothes on so that you won't be unable to see people for a while." While he was speaking, there were indeed sporadic footsteps outside. Previously, the Empress used domineering to deal with Luogu, but Luogu was not afraid, but the people outside couldn't bear it. A piece fell with a crash, how could it not attract attention? In this palace, the only one who can use the domineering look is the Empress. You don't need to think about it to know what's going on, so a group of people hurried over to check. At this time, a voice from outside said, "Your Majesty, are you all right?" The Empress gritted her teeth. It was strange that nothing happened. Turning around, I wanted to see Luogu's face, but I didn't know what Luogu looked like, and I couldn't see it. Finally, I asked in a low voice, "What do you want my concubine to say?" "Prepare a small boat that can leave the windless zone, and have water and food on board. Just say you are useful." Luogu ordered word by word. The Empress coughed and said, "Go and prepare a small boat for the concubine that can leave the windless zone. Prepare clean water and food on the boat. The concubine will be of great use. Don't ask too many questions about irrelevant matters." Luogu frowned and smiled softly. There was a murmur outside the door, and after a while, someone said, "I obey." Luogu murmured another word in the Empress's ear, and the Empress immediately said, "If you are ready, come back and report." "Yes." Luogu helped the Empress out of the tub. This woman was really tall, Luogu almost couldn't reach her. After all, he had a standard figure, meters tall. The Empress was a full 10 centimeters taller than him. For a moment, I still felt a little bit aggrieved in my heart, so I took the Empress's clothes, and let her wear them reluctantly without leaving the blade. During the process, she didn't do any extra actions, which made the Empress a little relieved. Men are not scary, but they are afraid of men playing hooligans. This person is still following the rules. Of course, this does not erase the Empress' murderous intention. Neither of them spoke during the process. After waiting for about 30 minutes, someone outside the door reported back, "Your Majesty, the boat is ready." The Empress immediately asked, "What should I do?" "Then please let the Empress come with me," Luogu said with a smile. "I have to let you go with me this time so I can rest assured. Today's things have to be done properly. Giving up halfway, or easily believing that the other party has prepared a boat, and then letting the Empress go find it by herself is not a perfect solution. There are too many variables in the period." The Empress was furious, but she could only agree. When I came to the door and opened it, I saw a tense situation outside. The moment they opened the door, they almost wanted to make a move, but when their eyes swept away, they were all at a loss. "It's all right?" An old lady who was only about 3 feet stepped forward. "Hancock, you. Stop talking nonsense." The Empress had a bad attitude. "Get out of the way." Others didn't know what was going on, and they could only agree to what the Empress said, but they all followed the Empress all the way. There were people who wanted to speak all the time on the road, but they were all blocked by the Empress. Because before going out, Luogu said that if there was any valuable communication between them, his blade would cut the Queen's throat without hesitation. He doesn't possess Overlord Haki, he knows it very well, and he can also become invisible. In the case of not being fully sure, once you make a rash move, it is likely to lead to unpredictable dangers. Luogu was really angry, and it is not impossible to kill on the island. This guy is definitely going to be a nightmare. Just like that, a group of people surrounded the Empress and Luogu, and came to the beach. Sure enough, a boat was prepared by the beach, and a half-sized sea snake was pulling it, looking around. There is only one cabin on the boat, there is no kitchen inside, just a bedroom with fresh water and food on it. Luogu took the Empress onto the boat, and the Empress struggled a bit. "It's all right here? If you want to leave, you can leave at any time, there is no need to bring the concubine with you." Luogu smiled wryly and said, "I don't know how to control the sea snake, so I can only ask the Empress to help herself." The Empress frowned. "Then when did you let me go?" "After going out to sea, I will let you go when I arrive at any small island that is not in a windless zone," Luogu said. I will do what I promise, and I will never break my promise. Helpless, the Empress had no choice but to board the boat with Luogu. The guards on the side were all blindfolded, and someone asked loudly, "Your Majesty, where are you going?" The Empress didn't talk to her, and she didn't know what method she used. The sea snake moved forward immediately, breaking through the waves, and swam a distance in a blink of an eye. Everyone was in a daze when they suddenly felt their vision distorted. A figure of a man appeared behind the Empress, holding a knife on the Empress' neck. Someone. Many people saw this, and were stunned for a moment. In fact, they felt that there was someone before, and the order of the Empress was weird, not her style. Thinking of the man they met during the day today, they felt that there was something wrong, so they prepared tensely outside the door, but they didn't find it all the way. Silhouette. But I didn't expect that the grandson would be invisible. And this sudden change, even Luogu didn't expect it. He first went to the Empress's room in stealth, and then waited for such a long time, and he walked slowly along the way surrounded by a large number of people, and he unknowingly delayed the time limit for invisibility. The moment he became invisible, he subconsciously covered his face, and disappeared immediately after the time for showing up. But the whereabouts have been exposed, and the Empress immediately urged the sea snake to speed up, but the effect was not high. Luogu was furious, his aura burst out suddenly, and the cold killing intent instantly stimulated the sea snake's nerves. It started to run away desperately like a dog biting its tail. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 235. This scene is very exciting. Much more exciting than an amusement park. Riding the wind and waves, the sea was surging, Luogu's feet were firmly attached to the ground, one hand was still holding a knife, but the other hand already needed to grab the side of the boat, otherwise he would have to lie on the ground. The Empress also wanted to grab the ship's side, but the blade was in her throat, so she couldn't move forward and wipe her own neck. Simply grabbing Luogu's arm to stabilize his figure, he shouted loudly, "What did you do? Give it a little excitement." As Luogu answered, he turned his head to look, only to find that the island was almost reduced to a point. This sea snake is so fast. Although the size is a bit smaller than that of a large sea snake, fortunately the boat is smaller. At this time, he was running all the way, but in the blink of an eye, the boat behind him had been thrown away. But it's not without problems, the question is whether it's fast or not, but there seems to be no way to control it. Looking at the record pointer, Luogu couldn't help but said, "Think about it, we've seriously deviated from the course. There is no way." The Empress was furious, "Isn't it you who stimulated it? Now it doesn't obey orders at all. What should I do? Let's see how long it can last. When the physical strength is exhausted, it will definitely be." As soon as she said this, there was a loud noise from the surface of the sea, and a huge sea king was seen coming out of the water. "Are you looking for death?" Luogu frowned, raised the blade, and the arc moon blade broke through the waves, and in a flash, the sea kings were killed by 2 points on the spot. However, just as this one died, another end emerged from under the waves, and the sea was turbulent and extremely unstable. The sea snake that was tugging the boat, after being stimulated by the Neptune species and also stimulated by Luogu, its eyes were already scarlet, and it could only run away like crazy. All of a sudden, the boat kept bumping on the sea surface and ran wildly. The sea kings behind were beheaded by Luogu's knife, and the rest did not dare to chase, but even so, they ran wildly for another 3 hours, completely unaware of what happened now. Where the hell is it? What's worse, the boat under him was already creaking, and it seemed that it would disintegrate at any moment. By this time, Luogu no longer cared about controlling the Empress, his brows were furrowed and his face was extremely ugly. Still too reckless. After arriving at Daughter's Island, all he wanted was to make a quick decision and leave as soon as possible in a way that was unexpected, but he didn't expect to fall into such a situation because of an accident. There is nowhere to go from here, and no island can even be seen under the night. If this continues, once the hull of the ship is broken, it will probably be a narrow escape. That ray of hope is that he still has the last reliance, diving. However, the diving time is limited. If the island cannot be found within the specified time, the chances of survival must be slim. God knows how many sea kings there are underwater? Even if he can fight again, how many can he kill? If that doesn't work, I'll grab a Neptune-like creature and use it as a mount. Thoughts were churning in my heart, looking at the Empress again. Her face was also extremely ugly, even uglier than Luogu. Because she can't go into the water. At this time, the back was already vast, and there were no pursuers or sea kings. The same was true in front, and even the direction was unknown. Luogu was also worried that the snake would return to Daughter Island in a crisis. That would be a lot of fun. But this worry was not realized in the end, because after another half an hour, there was a click sound, and a huge crack appeared on the ship, finally unable to support it, and the water surged upwards, but the two people fell into it in a short while. In the water. What should I do? The Empress was at her wits' end right now. Get on the back of that snake. If it weren't for his desperation, Luogu wouldn't want to dive directly into the water. The two people got off the hull and came to the back of the sea snake, but they didn't expect that the snake was already like a frightened bird, completely unaware that there was its own master on its back, and was suddenly stepped on by someone. The first reaction was to dive into the water, start swimming to death. The boat on its back has been separated, and the Empress caught Luogu like 8 fish as soon as she entered the water. The buoyancy acted on her body, and Luogu had already separated from the sea snake. In the deep sea water, huge eyes seemed to be hidden under the darkness. Luogu's face was ashen, and he seemed to be dying when he looked at the Empress. Immediately she surfaced and got air. The Empress took 2 deep breaths and heard Luogu say, "Let me go. Don't let it go." The Empress is not a fool. This guy can swim, and there is still a glimmer of life. As a devil fruit capable user, once he breaks away from this guy's protection, he will definitely die. If this goes on, we will all die. Luogu's face darkened. That's just right, we will die together. The Empress insisted that Qingshan would not let go and would not let go of Luogu no matter what. Under the moonlight, Luogu's ability has long been invalidated. At this moment, the Empress looked at him through the moonlight and laughed loudly. "So you look like this. The more you know, the sooner you die, don't you know?" Luogu wanted to kill this woman directly, and at this moment, he didn't care about pity, and the blade turned around to kill. Unexpectedly, the Empress said, "If you kill me, you will die too." Luogu frowned. Now that the two sides were facing each other, he could indeed stab the Empress from the back, but this woman could also fight back when she was about to die. If she was hit by her ability, she would definitely die if she fell into the water. Ending. But you can still gamble on the strength that the Empress can display. After all, sea water is the nemesis of ability users, and in this case, the opponent may not be able to display their true strength. The Empress seemed to have seen Luogu's thoughts. "You can give it a try." Luogu sighed and gambled with his life. He didn't want to do this. Then it depends on luck. The meaning of Luogu's words is far-reaching. There is no need to gamble on this game now, but if there is still no hope in the end, there is still a chance to get rid of this woman. At that time it is natural to gamble with your life. No matter how much strength the Empress can display, she has to fight. If the other party is just bluffing, then the possibility of her survival will be even greater. Hurry up. Thinking of this, Luogu let out a sound. The Empress said, "You are not allowed to dive into the water." She is not an idiot. once she dives, she will be completely lost, and then she will be truly dead. Luogu sighed, pay attention to the sea kings around you. Nonsense. As she finished speaking, the sea water suddenly boiled, and several sea kings emerged from it. The empress struggled from Luogu's arms to his back, almost riding on his body. Luogu was furious, what are you doing? As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a domineering aura sweep across all directions. After being stimulated by this, the weak ones fainted and sank into the water, while the powerful ones also turned around and ran away, not daring to take another look. Satisfied, the empress posed behind Luogu, looking at people with her chest. Let's go. Depend on. Luogu vomited blood in anger. Pirate's bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 236. Ups and downs in the sea. Luogu didn't know how long he had been swimming, nor in what direction he was swimming. Even, the route of travel may not be a straight line at all. The stars can't guide him, he can only rely on luck. As for the record pointer, it was lost before. This was a tormenting journey, and even Luogu had to admit that after setting foot on the Chambord Islands, no. To be precise, after meeting the yellow ape, his luck was not very good. Maybe a wrong decision? Who knows, any kind of reasons may exist. The woman behind her seemed to be almost unable to hold on anymore. Although she used a trouble-saving method, the power of the sea water always existed, and after being soaked for a long time, her condition was even worse than that of Luogu. It's just that Luogu no longer has the urge to kill. Even, consciousness has begun to fall into a terrible silence. But at this moment, he faintly saw a small island appearing where the sea and the sky were uniform. Although the sea water is not static, it does not feel the exuberant vitality of the original, and there is not even the slightest wind blowing in the air. When Luogu sat up from the beach, the feeling of survival began to fill his whole body. The sun was shining brightly above his head. Luogu squinted his eyes for a while, and then let out a soft breath. Last night, when he tried his best to get here, he had completely lost all his strength. It was hard to tell whether he fell asleep or passed out. Now that I wake up, it's good, at least I'm not dead yet. Turning his head to look, Hancock was nowhere to be seen. Luogu's heart felt a little cold. He touched his neck subconsciously, and let out a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, didn't die. After the woman woke up, wasn't her first reaction to kill herself? If she changed herself, well, probably she wouldn't kill someone, but this woman is different. Although it can't be said to be a lunatic. But as a whole, I hate men so much that there is no reason to let me go so easily, right? When thinking of this, footsteps came from behind. Luogu turned his head, the Empress' face was gloomy. It's an island. The Empress said calmly, there is no one, no boat, no wind. The only way to get out of here is waiting for your people to rescue us. It's to save me. The Empress looked at Luogu with her chest, and you will die the moment they arrive. Too confident, Luogu let out a sigh of relief, it's a good thing you don't let me die now. The Empress was silent, she actually wanted to kill Luogu. And when she woke up, it was the best time. But no one knows the calm zone better than her, and what happened last night caused her people to track it down here, and it would take a long time. So how should this long time be spent? The first time she thought about this, she thought about whether there was a way to get out of here instead of killing people, because if she was really trapped here, she needed help. So, after walking around the island, the Empress, who found no one here, turned around and came back. And after hearing Luogu's words, he pointed at him, the only reason not to kill you is that from now on, you are my servant. Neuropathy. How could Luogu care about her? He stood up and picked up the black pill, and walked directly to the island. He also knew the seriousness of the current situation. Perhaps the most wrong thing yesterday was not to provoke the sea snake, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be crazy. As a result, they ran wildly all the way, the boat bumped and broke, and finally the two of them ended up where they are now. But now it's better, I don't have a phone bug on my body, and I can't contact anyone. In a place like a windless belt, even if you cut down trees on the island, it is difficult for the raft to float in such a place. Wait for the Empress to find her. When you can find it, you will see the sun again. But before that, the most important thing is to survive. After walking forward for a while, Luogu suddenly frowned and turned back to look at the Empress who was following him. Why follow me? Is there any problem following my servant? The Empress replied lightly. Luogu smiled and nodded, no problem, if you like it, just follow along, but you probably won't particularly like what I'm going to do next. What are you going to do? Shit. The Empress thought for a while and said, I haven't seen it yet, you can visit it. Luogu's face turned black, are you sick? It seems that before you officially become my servant, it is necessary for you to undergo a certain degree of training. The Empress smiled slightly. Luogu poked out the blade, come on. Then, without doing anything serious that day, the two had a fight here. Both of them spent a lot of money last night, and there is still room for all their shots today. The next time may have to be spent on this island with the other party. If the other party is killed, many things will be left to be handled by himself, which will be very troublesome. Therefore, you can't kill the other party, just give a lesson. But, both of them are powerful. This kind of fighting with leeway is no different from flirting. I fought all day, not to mention the winner, and I was hungry. In the end, Luogu really couldn't do it anymore, so he waved his hand to stop. The Empress gasped, what are you doing? Don't do it. Luogu said righteously, is there anything edible on this island? How can I know this kind of thing best? I have never been here before. It's powerless to refute. Luogu sighed, it's just that the islands in front of our house don't come here. What is there in this place that can attract me? The Empress was even more angry, if it wasn't for you, how could I come here? Okay, why are you arguing? Luogu frowned, let's have a truce and eat. It is good. The Empress is kind, and she is also hungry. It's just that in terms of life experience, maybe the former Empress had it, but now, it's really nothing. He talked about eating, and then looked at Luogu eagerly, as if Luogu could conjure delicious food for her by spreading his hands. Of course this is simply impossible. Luogu glanced around. Even if there were wild beasts in the woods, they would have been scared to death by the two people that day. See if there is any water source. If there is, catch 2 fish to satisfy your hunger. Luogu sighed helplessly, what if he was living on a deserted island? Let's find a way to solve the food problem first, it's funny to starve to death when nothing is done. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 237. Late at night. The jungle is silent, next to the gurgling river. Fortunately, there is indeed fresh water here, and the source of the water should be high on the island, flowing down from there, and finally into the sea. There are fish in the water, all of them look stupid, and the fat ones look very uneaten. Luogu casually grabbed 2 tails and put them on the fire to roast, tangled and depressed while roasting. What to do next? I have played games like Desert Island Survival and watched related videos, but I never thought it would happen to me. And when you come to the world of One Piece, if you don't want to be a pirate, it's fine to be a pirate hunter, but why don't you go to a deserted island and plan to become a survival expert? What the hell kind of charter is this? Luogu feels depressed when he thinks about it, and always feels that as far as the time traveler is concerned, it seems that such a person is not doing a proper job. Look at the empress next to her, this one is staring at the two fishes at this moment, drooling. But after noticing Luogu's gaze, he immediately sat up straight, as if he was a lady of everyone. Luogu curled his lips, and the empress glared at him immediately. I am not very hungry. How can you be arrogant? Luogu sighed. I don't know when your people will be able to find this place. It will be soon. The empress said lightly, her tone was quite confident. It's no fun to lie to yourself, Luogu said while turning the grilled fish. We have lost all means of communication now, and we don't know if there are decent beasts on this island. You can control snakes, but the problem is that we can't catch the ones that can be used, and the result is now. There is no boat, no communication equipment. The two of us want to leave here. It is difficult. Your people are also difficult to find. One day you can look for it in 2 days, and you can look for it in a month or 2 months, but what about a year or 2? 10 years or 8 years? Can they still find it? Will they persist? If it is gone, replace it with another one. 9 snakes are still 9 snakes, and Lily is still Lily. Although the strength cannot convince the public for a while, as long as you hide yourself and keep a low profile, when the second Bo Yahan cook appears in the group, they will be among the ranks of Kai Wuhei again. We live the same life, and there is one less woman to look at with her breasts. Why not? The empress's face turned livid when Luogu said, such a thing will never happen. Absolutely, Luogu said with a smile. How absolute? It's very absolute. Luogu stopped talking. There was no point in arguing with the empress, and now there are only 2 people here, although they are enemies and not friends, but they can rely on each other. If it is really here for a long time, maybe it is like Zhongquishan and Yin Susu, and it is not impossible to regenerate Zhongwuji later. Thinking of this, Luogu became sad again and sighed softly. Looking at the cooked fish, he took one and started to chew. The empress frowned. It's so ugly. She gracefully took one and ate it in small bites, but her face became livid after taking a bite. It's so unpalatable. Freshwater fish, there is no seasoning to remove the fishy smell. It's strange if it tastes good. Get some sea fish tomorrow and cut it into sashimi. Then look for wild delicacies in this mountain, whether it's seasoning or something. I have to look for it. Well, other than that, you don't have to worry about Yanba, you guard the sea. Based on my knowledge, this problem is not difficult to solve. The more problematic thing is the place to live. Luogu looked at the surrounding environment and said, it's not my style to eat and sleep like this every day. I will arrange a task for you tomorrow, cut down trees. I will build a house and provide us with shelter temporarily. Even though he said so, Luogu was still very depressed. How did you manage to complete a survival game for such a good game like Kai Wushuan? Famine, no. Famine also sleeps in the wild. Is it really my world? It doesn't seem to be the case. Forget it, whatever you like, don't care. After thinking wildly for a while, after eating the fish and throwing the spines away, it is considered barely enough to eat. Then I found a random place, closed my eyes, and fell asleep. The empress sat by the bonfire, struggled for a long time, and finally decided to eat. When she was suffering, such things were nothing, and she was not as delicate as she imagined. After eating, I couldn't sleep, so I sat by the campfire and began to think about my thoughts. In fact, what she said until Luogu was right. If no one is seen alive, it may be considered to be buried in the sea. At that time, Daughter Island will also be in charge of another person. I might really be trapped here. And how long it will be trapped, I don't know. It could be just for a while, or it could be for a lifetime. But if it's really a lifetime, what should I do? Thinking of this, she became very angry and turned to look at the man who was snoring like thunder. He wanted to kill him directly, but he sighed. If you kill him, there will really be no one left to talk to. That night, She couldn't sleep at all. The next morning, Luogu got up and went to find something to eat. The Grand Line was open to all seasons, and Daughter's Island was a bit like a tropical environment. This small island is nice, it feels a bit like spring. There are also many wildflowers and wild fruits on the mountain. Luogu tried to taste a few, and the taste was good, but he didn't know whether it was poisonous or not. After picking some for the Empress to make breakfast, he went to the beach. I cut down 2 trees on the beach, pulled out the bark, broke it into pieces, twisted the ropes, and made a fish basket. Then went into the sea to catch fish. His skills made him a duck to water in the sea, and he quickly paid off. But after returning, I found that the Empress was sitting there sleeping. I was so angry. Not used to it, she went over and pushed her to wake her up, and said in the blank eyes of the other party, "Cut the tree." "Why?" "That's fine, I'll cut it myself and build it myself, so you can just sleep outside like this every night." After Luogu finished speaking, he took the knife and left. The Empress curled her lip. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 238. What? The Empress frowned and looked at Luogu. "I need a reasonable explanation." Luogu came to the tree and looked up. This tree has big branches and leaves, and the branches are thick and long. It may be because the tree has absorbed so much nutrients that there are no mature trees in the surrounding area. He smiled slightly at the moment. "I think this tree can be used as a tree house." "Tree house?" the Empress blinked. Luogu's eyes lit up. "Yes, give me more of this expression, it's very cute. I don't need you to praise me as a concubine." The Empress was angry, then turned her head up to the sky, and pointed at Luogu. "Even if the concubine is trapped here like you, just being helpless does not mean that you are qualified to judge the concubine." "Who is going to judge you?" Luogu rolled his eyes. "Is it worth it?" Then he said, "In short, don't move this tree." As he said that, he turned and went to other places to cut down. There were many thick trees here, so he chopped 2 or 3 at random, and used his superb swordsmanship to split them into templates. Then he climbed up the tree and began to think about how to make this tree house. The Empress also came over, followed Luogu to look here and there, and finally found that she couldn't understand anything. "Do you really know it, or are you just pretending?" Luogu ignored her, and came to the place where 2 branches intertwined, pondered for a while, then nodded. "This is it." He went down to get the plank and started his show. "This thing can't be finished in a day." The Empress watched it all day, and tugged at Luogu's sleeve at night. "I'm hungry. Let's go down and cook. We got a lot of seafood today." Luogu sealed it before and put it in the sea water. "I will bring it over and have a look. All of them are still fresh. Take it out, kill the fish and dissect it. After tossing for a while, clean it. Some are sliced and eaten directly, and some are roasted on the fire." While watching the oily grilled fish, Luogu pondered, "It's not the way to go on like this. Do you really want to live here forever? Worrying. A well-behaved traveler has fallen to the current end, and there is no place to reason. Moreover, even if you take a step back, if you really want to live here for the rest of your life, you can't eat this kind of food every day, right? After a long time, there will definitely be problems. However, I couldn't find any suitable solution for these things for a while, so I simply didn't think about it." After eating and drinking enough, Luogu climbed up the tree at night, and the Empress followed. The 2 looked at each other, and finally Luogu said, "You are on one side and I am on the other. There is a clear distinction. No one should cross the line. I don't want to fight with you because of this." "Yes," the Empress nodded, and didn't bother arguing with Luogu that this was what she wanted to say. Eat and drink enough, feel sleepy, sleep first is serious. But this time, no one slept soundly. Come to think of it, the wood was just cut down during the day without any treatment, and the smell and unvolatile dry juice were all there. Neither of the two people could sleep. Finally, he simply stood up and found another tree branch, one for each person, so that he could sleep comfortably. After this night passed, the next day was still the same routine. However, after Luogu learned such a lesson, he began to deal with the wooden board to a certain extent. After all, if it is used directly, it will definitely cause problems in the long run. And when he thought about it for a long time, he couldn't help but sigh. But sighing is a sigh, you have to live, right? There is hope when you are alive. Whether the people from Nine Snakes find this place or place their hope on Dashki and the others, it is better than living day after day without hope. Moreover, such things as survival on a deserted island, the game may be very fun, but after this is really the case, you will find, those things are only limited to the achievements in the game. Things like this are really not a long-term solution. His desert island survival experience, or survival experience in the wild, is limited to videos and games. It is nothing more than that. Now that the body is strong, many things are not difficult. For example, fishing in the sea, logging and building houses, and wild beasts invading, for him and the Empress, it is actually not difficult, and it can be done easily. It's still going to fail. Like tonight. Luogu was sleeping soundly, and then heard a click, followed by a feeling of falling. He woke up from this ignorance in a second, and then jumped out. Unfortunately, before he jumped out, he was already in close contact with the ground. The sound of the wood falling apart spread far away, and after a few seconds, two embarrassed people emerged from the remaining wood. The Empress sat on the pile of wood and reflected for a long time, but in the end she really didn't understand what she did wrong and why she fell into such a situation. Luogu was the same. He stared at the sky in a daze for a while, then rubbed his face, climbed up the tree, and lay down on the branch again. "Aren't you going to say something?" the Empress shouted to him from below. "What did you say?" Luogu yawned. "It's better to sleep honestly. The house will be built tomorrow after it collapses. It's nothing, who can't experience a few failures in life?" The Empress's face turned black, and she finally climbed up the tree helplessly. Lying down on another tree branch, she was relatively speechless. After a while, the Empress asked, "Are you asleep?" "Not going to develop a friendship, boom boom, so please leave me alone." "What do you mean? It's not interesting." Luogu turned over, with his butt facing her. The Empress no longer felt that this was blasphemy, in fact she was used to it. "There are some things I have never asked you." The Empress said, "Why do you appear in my country as a pirate hunter?" In the past few days of communication, Luogu's identity will naturally not be hidden. In fact, with his popularity, the Empress knows who he is as long as she sees his face. He was silent for a while. "I want to say that I was tricked. Do you believe it or not?" Being cheated, the Empress was a little puzzled. Who could cheat you after being able to show off at sea for such a long time? Pirate hunter Noros Rogu has such a great name. He said that he was cheating. I don't believe it. Luogu couldn't sleep either, so he turned over, faced the Empress and said, "In short, there is a son who wants to die, a father who is forced to do things, and a subordinate who is willing to die. In order to save this dead son, he was sent to you. Then, because there was a little rift between me and this dead son, he caught me the moment he was about to fly. After all, I'm just a foil, just an accessory. Why is that kid still talking about Nine Snake Island, and I have to spend time with a crazy woman here?" The amount of information seems to be a bit large. The Empress was furious after pondering for a long time. Who do you call a crazy woman? Pirate's bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 239. Luogu laughed, and then the Empress became even more angry. I see you don't want to sleep, you want to fight with me. No, I'm not interested in this. Luogu turned over and said, in short, running to your island is force majeure, and I have no intention of doing so. And drifting here now is not what I want, so, in a way, we are on the same page. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here at all. But if it were you, what would you do? Luogu said, who can give me a boat in that kind of place? The Empress was silent. How could Ju Snake Island give a man a boat? So, this is fate. Luogu turned upside down, looking at the sky and night, but how should I put it, it can be regarded as a relatively special experience. In life, you should taste all the ups and downs. It's like if it wasn't for your past experience, how would it make you who you are now? Don't say it like you know me very well. Let's talk about that mark on you. How do you know? On this occasion, it doesn't seem so difficult to talk about this issue. It's about worrying about what other people know, and here, there seems to be no one else. Maybe I will tell you later, but now I can only say that this is something I learned through special channels. Luogu said with a smile, don't worry, only I know. You killed everyone else. No, they are all alive and well, there are countless pirate fans. Gently rubbed his forehead, you don't need to know the process, you just need to know, your secret is only known by one more person now, and that is me, and I have no intention of using this to do anything. If not after going to your island, I won't even meet you, and I won't mention this issue to you. If I have to say it, the current situation is probably the will of the big universe. Anyway, I have nothing to do now. The Empress was also silent, and then looked at herself complainingly. I never thought that it would be the last time I take a bath. Bath? Luogu was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly smiled. Isn't it easy to take a bath? There are water sources around. You just go and wash. Then you go to take a peek, the Empress sneered. It turns out that you care about this kind of thing, so go while I'm asleep. For people like us, even if we fall asleep, we are easily awakened. So in the final analysis, you just don't trust me. Luogu curled his lips. Actually, you don't need to be like this at all, after all, I have already seen it. The Empress gritted her teeth, unable to refute for a while, because this bastard kidnapped herself from the bathtub. The moment of isolation and helplessness was really, thinking about it now, I still feel lingering fear. She took a deep look at Luogu, and all her emotions were contained in this look. It's a pity that Luogu didn't look at her. Just knowing that she didn't mean to take any action, she smiled and said, then what do you say, so you are willing to take a bath? You go with me, the Empress said in surprise. Luogu was startled, sat down from the tree, and looked at the Empress wonderingly. So, you want to wash with me? I didn't expect you to play very openly. You follow me, then stand there, close your eyes, so that I can see that your eyes are closed from any angle for the first time, and I will stare at you all the time. Once you open your eyes, I will let you know how great it is. That's what you came up with. Preventing a thief is hard, but if you have a thief in front of you and keep an eye on him, it's not so difficult. All right, let's go, Luogu said. Left and right can't sleep, let's take a bath together. The Queen's face turned dark. Did she want to say this kind of thing like this? He didn't want to go, but the life in Huangdao these days was a bit uncomfortable, so he finally gritted his teeth and followed Luogu. There is a water source not far away, a small lake. Luogu looked around and found that it is actually quite beautiful. A big moon in the sky was emitting brilliance, and a large group of small insects whose names were not known were floating around the lake. Their bodies exuded crystal light, making this place as beautiful as a fairyland at night. You just stand here, the Empress said. Luogu stood still and looked at her. "Close your eyes." The Empress spoke again. Luogu closed his eyes obediently. Then I heard some rustling voices, and couldn't help but smile and said, "If I were you, I would probably wash the clothes together." "You don't have to worry about it." After the Empress finished speaking, her voice quickly disappeared. After a while, there was a slight sound of water. After a while, her voice sounded, "You can open your eyes." So generous, Luogu opened his eyes, and saw that the entire body of the Empress was submerged in the water, leaving only a head. Under the dark night, the water is not transparent, and nothing can be seen at all. He laughed. No wonder he was so generous. He simply sat on the ground and started chatting with the Empress. "How old are you this year? Do you have a boyfriend? What kind of one are you planning to find?" And so on. The Empress wanted to kill someone while chatting, and then heard Luogu say, "You said, what will you do if I take all your clothes away?" The Empress was taken aback. "What do you want to do?" Luogu smiled slightly, "It's boring anyway, why not give it a try?" "You." Suddenly, she saw that Luogu really picked up the clothes she folded and put on the side, then turned and ran. "You come back to me!" the Empress roared. Luogu laughed loudly, "Peeping or something, there is no trace at all. I am more curious, how will you come up in a while? Friendly reminder, don't soak for too long, the skin will not be able to bear it. Noros Rogu, I must kill you." Amidst the frantic roars, she was not seen jumping out, obviously not planning to confront Luogu in her current state. Luogu didn't take it seriously at all, and went back directly to the big tree, turned over on the tree, threw the queen's clothes on another branch, and went to sleep. If she comes back, she can sleep on her own and wear her clothes, and nothing will be affected. Of course, if you don't want to, that's not a big deal, it's up to her to deal with it. This kind of behavior has no deep meaning at all, nor any thought, it is a very simple prank. Pirate's Bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 240. Luogu also didn't know if the Empress really just soaked in the water all night. Anyway, when she woke up the next day, the woman really didn't come back. I was a little bit worried in my heart about whether I would be in danger or something like that. But considering the woman's strong fighting power, I always feel that no matter what happens on this island, it will not be able to keep her. Most importantly, if something happened, he would definitely be able to sense it. In view of this, if you don't come back, it is very likely that you are too embarrassed to come back. He suddenly looked forward to the next thing. What will she look like when she comes back? It was not until noon, after Luogu rebuilt the house, that the sound of footsteps could be heard. He glanced at the source of the sound and couldn't help rubbing his eyes. The grass skirt covered her thighs, and 2 leaves covered her chest. The Empress looked shy and angry, gnashing her teeth and looking at Luogu, who was basking in the sun on the tree. "Yo!" Luogu waved to her, "You are dressed very fashionably. Are you going to be a model?" The Empress almost died of anger, but she didn't know why. She didn't have an attack, but took a deep breath, suppressed it, looked up at her clothes, and snorted, "Give it back to me." Luogu threw her clothes down. The Empress took the clothes and got into the grass, and came out after a while. Although the clothes were still dirty, the aura of the Empress was completely different from that of a savage just now. Luogu giggled, and the Empress gave him a cold look. "Boring." Luogu asked, "Where's your clothes full of natural flavor?" There were veins on the Empress's forehead. In the end, she didn't know how much effort she used to calm down the anger. After giving Luogu a blank look, she climbed up the tree. She didn't sleep well that night. She really took a bath until midnight last night, and she felt like she didn't need to take a shower for about half a month. What is needed most now is rest. But before going to bed, she said to Luogu, I hope I can eat when I wake up. This is what you owe me. Okay, okay. As the main culprit of the prank, Lugu spread his hands, saying that there is no problem. What surprised him was, did this woman really plan to take revenge on herself? She would be so kind? In the next few days, she really had no intention of revenge, and even her attitude towards herself improved a lot. If she said that because of a prank, she was convinced to herself and was willing to live in peace, even if Luogu was killed, she would not believe it. But her various performances also made Luogu think about it. She doesn't think that, on this desert island, two people support each other, so they shouldn't care about it. That's why they want to have a good relationship with me. When he thought about it like this, he felt a little uncomfortable. If the Empress really thinks about it this way, wouldn't it be that she seems to be mischievous and has no style? That night, the bonfire was burning brightly, and the beast meat was roasting beside it. In the past few days, Luogu explored the surroundings and found a lot. Although there are not many seasonings and the like, they can be used flexibly, especially one that is just right on the barbecue. Combined with sea salt, the taste will not be so difficult to swallow. Smelling the aroma of barbecue, neither of them drooled. Although it was not hard to swallow, it was obviously not very tasty. The most important thing is that no matter how delicious something is, eating it every day will taste like chewing wax. Roga glanced at the silent Hancock, finally sighed and said, "I think we should talk." Hancock raised his head and glanced at Luogu, but said nothing. "If you don't speak, you admit it? You also think that we should have a good talk?" Luogu said, "First of all, we all know something. Now that we are trapped here, the chance of seeing the sun is not very great. If this continues, the two of us may even die on this island." Hancock frowned. "My concubine's subordinates will definitely find this place." "I don't deny the possibility of this, but it will take time," Luogu said, "and this time, I don't know how long it will be. It's okay to say 1 month or 2 months, 1 year or 2. Or even 10 years or 8 years. I know others probably don't care about your whereabouts, but your 2 younger sisters certainly won't just leave you alone, but when they find us, no one knows how long it will be." Hancock closes his eyes. "Yes, that's really the biggest problem." Then she opened her eyes and looked at Luogu. "So, what are you going to say?" "In the future, I don't know how long, you and I have been getting along like this. I think the relationship between us should be changed. For example, stop being so hostile to each other. What qualifications does a guy who steals other people's clothes while they are taking a shower have to say such things?" Hancock gritted his teeth. Luogu blinked his eyes, listening to the tone. It doesn't look like he wants to reconcile with himself. But that's it. Is it because of the other party's resentful words that we just let it go? He thought for a while and said, "Well, I apologize to you for what happened before. It's true that I was too immature and made a move to hurt you. From now on, it will never happen again." Hancock glanced at Luogu. His expression was a little stunned, and he asked suspiciously, "Really?" "Of course." Luogu said, "Although I am not a big shot, I still have the ability to keep my word." Hancock nodded. "Well, I accept your apology." "Very good, very good. From now on, the two of us will work together and live here together. After all, no matter how we live, there is hope only if we are alive, right?" Luogu said, "I will slowly complete the house completely, and then divide it into 2 rooms. The layout should be 2 floors, you rest in the upper room, and I am in the lower room. After the work, the 2 of us you can also divide the work. I am in charge of obtaining food, and you can find a way to help us get some clothes. Although the clothes are good now, they are too worn. New clothing from natural elements. Dare to say." The Empress' face darkened. Luogu coughed quickly. "Ahem, in short, let's find a way to get some fabrics and the like." Try it little by little, and you can always make something decent. After all, we too have plenty of time. When talking about this, Luogu and the Empress sighed at the same time. Time is such a thing, sometimes it is really sad. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 241. Time is like grains of sand in your palm, flowing away from your fingertips inadvertently. It didn't take too long for Hancock to go from being frightened and confused at the beginning, looking forward to rescue, to giving up hope. The life on this wonderful island also forced her and Luogu to work together. Hunting, weaving, cooking food. To be honest, even Luogu never thought that one day he would live like a primitive man. If the only thing that can be used as an embellishment on this island is Hancock's appearance. This woman doesn't know how to do it, whether she is wearing clothes that barely fit the turf, or clothes that have been improved with animal skins, she can wear her own temperament. Although she is often furious, but the beauty is so angry that it often makes people feel dazzled. Fortunately, Luogu is not the evil spirit, otherwise, something might happen to the lonely man and widow. On this day, Luogu was cooking food in the simple camp built by two people. Suddenly, Hancock's voice was heard in a hurry. "I found a cave, come and have a look. Find out what's worth seeing in the cave, eat something first, and then we'll talk after you're done. Stop talking nonsense. Living here with you is already unlucky enough. Now there is a cave to stay in. You can just dawdle." Hancock didn't care if Luogu wanted it or not, he grabbed his arm and left. Luogu sighed, "Let's go, why are you always so hands-on?" Holding a scented animal leg in his hand, he kept up with Hancock while muttering. The cave that Hancock discovered is quite secretive, and it twists and turns several times, and Hancock himself seems to lose his way again. A hole suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. The entrance to the cave was dark and deep, but this did not trouble the two of them. "Be careful, there may be wild beasts," Luogu reminded. "What is there to be careful about with beasts?" Hancock wondered. "Be careful of adding too many meals at night, you will get fat again. I advise you to mind your own business." The two kept fighting, but they gradually went deeper into the cave. At the beginning, the cave was flat and wide. However, the further you go inside, the narrower the cave becomes. Gradually, two people can no longer walk side by side. In fact, it's basically enough to just walk here. Get some torches or something, put them around, and live in the cave at night. It's far better than sleeping outside. But both Luogu and Hancock are curious people. Pirates themselves are great experts in adventure. As a pirate hunter, Luogu can't justify it without enough curiosity and sensitivity. They all immediately decided to take a closer look at the cave. I don't know how long they walked along this cramped cave, but the surrounding darkness gradually converged into a deep black ink. Even Luogu and Hancock could not capture the surrounding environment with their eyes, and could only use their hands to grope the rock wall. Even the arrogance of knowledge is useless in this meeting. In fact, at this point, both of them knew that they were a little out of play. Domineering is useless, the weirdness of this cave is beyond the normal range. How about going back first? Come back and explore when you're ready. Hancock was the first to propose. A majestic empress, is she also afraid? Luogu smiled but said, however, "I agree. If you say something sarcastic, you are obviously worried." Hancock muttered something, and the two of them didn't say much, so they turned around and walked back. However, this road is far farther than imagined. After walking for a long time, there is no openness in front of us. But at this moment, there is no other way but to bite the bullet and move forward. I don't know how long it took, but suddenly, a light appeared faintly in front of my eyes. The two people immediately cheered up and ran quickly towards the bright light. The light gradually expanded, and it turned out to be the entrance of the cave. But when the two breathed a sigh of relief, Luogu's expression suddenly changed. Something's wrong. What happened? Hancock quickly asked, What's wrong? Don't be so startled and frightening. No. We entered the cave before, and it was a spacious place for a long time, but now. The entrance of the cave is right in front of us. Where did the wide cave go? After his reminder, Hancock also discovered the problem. It was obvious that he was going back the same way, but something went wrong. How to do? Hancock subconsciously looked at Rogu. Luogu sighed, At this point, I'm afraid we have no way out. This cave is weird, so we can only go out and see what it is like. Maybe we will go directly to Nine Snake Island after we go out. Then you just wait to accept my sanction. Hancock was immediately proud when he heard the words, but he also thought it was a joke. After wandering here, entering a cave, and then going out, it becomes Nine Snake Island? It's so funny. But what Luogu said is correct. If you can go back to the original road, you can get out of the wrong way, so this cave may not be so simple. But no matter what, you have to go out and have a look first. The two made a decision and walked out of the cave immediately. Looking up, there is blue sky and white clouds. The dazzling sunlight shone down and enveloped the two people, making them unable to open their eyes for a moment. Hancock frowned and looked around. He saw huge buildings rising from the ground. They were on the roof of a building at this time. Walking to the edge of the building and looking down, you can see that there are many vehicles running staggered on the street. Looking up again, you can see the huge iron bird flashing lights, whizzing and flying. All kinds of weirdness made Hancock dumbfounded. What kind of place is this? Looking back, the cave entrance had mysteriously disappeared, leaving Luogu alone standing there, speechless. What are you talking about? Where is this? Luogu took a deep breath, stretched his arms, and the brilliance in his eyes was definitely not panic, but surprise and nostalgia. Hancock froze for a moment. You know this place? Of course I know. Luogu's eyes fell on Hancock. This is my hometown. End of the book.